Hello, welcome to part 2 of the topic reproduction in humans. In this section, we are going to look at the female reproductive system. Now on our screen, you will see the side view of the female reproductive system. We'll see the other end also here, which are showing the various parts of the female reproductive system. Let us now look at the various parts. We have the labia minora, labia majora, the clitoris, the urethra, the bladder, the uterus, the fallopian tube, the ovary, cervix, and the rectum, not forgetting the vagina. Okay, so the other side also shows the vagina, the ovaries, the fallopian tube, the uterus, the ovary, and the cervix. So we will proceed to look at the various parts and their functions. So we're going to start with the ovary. So here we can see the ovary here, and these ovaries are two, and they are in oval in shape. They lie on both sides of the womb. The main function of the ovaries is to produce the female gametes, which is the sex cell, also known as the egg or the ova. Now, a single material is called the ovary, and two or more are referred to as ovaries. So singular is ovary, plural is ovaries. The next part we are going to look at is the fallopian tube. So this tube is what you are referring to as the fallopian tube. You can also identify it here too. And the fallopian tube is a thin walled muscular tube about 10 centimeters long, which can be found immediately above the ovaries. Now we have to know that that is the main place where fertilization takes place. And what we mean by that is the ovary will release eggs, and these eggs will pass through the fallopian tube. The male will deposit the sperms at this location, which will now pass through this end and then come all the way to this part where it will get itself fertilized, and the zygote will now move into the womb. Let's go to the next part, known as the uterus. So this region is called the uterus. This is how the uterus is positioned in the female, and it is also known as the womb. The uterus is a thick-walled muscular organ which receives, accommodates, nourishes, and protects the embryo and fetus during pregnancy. So that is the function of the uterus. Now we come to the cervix. So this is the region called the cervix, and it is labeled here. The cervix is also found here. Now the cervix serves as a link between the womb and the vagina. Let's come to the next part called the vulva. So this part is called the vulva, and we have labeled it as labia minora and labia majora. It is sitting in front of the vagina and then the urinary tract. In our local language, tree, we see this and we call it a tree, but this is far different from that. The real, as in translation, this is the real vagina, and so this does not represent what we be thinking. So that is just the vulva. So in English, it is the vulva. So you don't see this in the local language, and then you say that that is the vagina. It is the vulva. So take note of it. And what does it do? It is a sensitive organ located around the opening or the mouth of the vagina. In the external genital organ. Let's come to the vagina itself. So this line here indicates the vagina. So you have it here. Now the vagina is a thin-walled passage leading from the cervix to the vulva. It receives the erected penis during sexual intercourse, and it is the organ through which a baby is born. So there are two functions that it performs. One, it receives an erected penis. Two, it is the passageway for the delivery of a baby. So we come to the clitoris. Now the clitoris is a small sensitive organ that lies in front of the vulva. It helps arouse the sexual feeling of the woman. So those are the various parts of it. We can identify the bladder, the urethra, which is functional separately from each other, unlike in the male reproductive system where both urine and semen pass through the same tube. Here they are separated. So that is the unique thing about the female reproductive system. Let us now look at the functions of the female reproductive system. 1. To produce the female sex cells in the ovaries. 2. To produce female sex hormones. Example, estrogen, which is responsible for the control of female secondary sexual characteristics. The last but not the least, to deliver egg or ova to the ovidad where fertilization takes place. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this part 2, which is part 2. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Dogbert Science channel, and share. Look forward for our next lesson on the continuation of reproduction in humans.